We are live. Hello, everyone. Very excited to be with my dear friend, Jason Diggs, a man who was really, really important in my life, really brought me a lot. So I'm very thrilled and excited. You know, I love this conversation. And the first reason I do this conversation is for myself, because I enjoy them. I just have a good excuse to get to chat with these incredible humans. And Jason is one guy that could really, and this conversation could change your life. So I really invite you guys to tune in, listen up, pause whatever you're doing, because this man is offering some golden information. So welcome, Jason. How are you, brother?
I'm wonderful. Thank you so much, Alex. And I'm happy to know that I'm an important person in your life. I mean, we haven't seen each other in a couple of years, but uh, you gave me an amazing breathwork session in Bali that changed my life. Like after you took all of my authentic relating courses and we kind of got into friendship a little bit, I remember that particular moment of struggling a little bit after a breakup and just going deep into the breath work with you and just in one session. And then I carried that practice forward for months. And so I see you as, yeah, the aliveness guru or something.
Thank you, brother. And for me, the way we met, it was interesting. And that's absolutely everything in my life has been a bit like that. Is like, I didn't really want to join. I didn't care about anything related to authentic relating. That was not something that I was considering, but I was with someone who really wanted to do it. And I kind of joined in order to please her.
Yeah.
And I end up doing, 3 seasons of this show with you, including one when I just came out of the hospital after, 10
Oh my
days
God.
fast and a big operation. And
Yeah.
now I happen to really implement a huge part of what is authentic relating, which we're going to touch about today.
Mhm.
And just as an introduction, I want to say that, you mentioned breath work. I consider breath work prep work.
Yeah.
With breath work, meditation, ice baths, all these mindful practices, we're
Mhm.
actually getting to connect with ourselves. But
Yeah.
that's just the beginning. What's happening after these sessions is we are, kind of in integration. We are sharing with everyone. We're either circling or having one-on-ones. We get people to actually, okay, now express what's underneath the emotions that came out during the breathing. And that's
Yeah.
where authentic relating for me comes into practice, because it gets
Yeah.
you to come to operate and communicate at a much deeper level. For
Yeah.
me, when I usually express myself, it's about me. And authentic relating really gets me to, okay, now it's not only about me, but it's about us. And it's really incredible. So I'm really, really excited for us. Can you define a little bit what is the art of authentic relating, or authentic relating as you practice it and as you've been teaching it?
Yeah. Authentic relating is a few things. It's a movement that's gone around the world. It's really being taught in, um, no one can even track how fast it's growing. Maybe 40 cities around the world have regular authentic relating classes, and now there's all these online groups. And it's also a set of practices, tools, techniques, communication techniques. It points to a very particular truth, which is most of our woundedness, most of our injury early in life has to do with relationship. It has to do with not being cared for or met in a way that we could be, right? And that's universal across the board. It happens to nearly everyone. It's just these developmental kind of cracks that happen when we're not perfectly met by our parents, which is impossible, right? Everyone. Those things that get laid down in relationship become patterns later on that affect
Mm.
primarily our romantic relationships and our work relationships and our closest friendships. All of those patterns are living inside of our body. They're literally stored in our cells. And so authentic relating is a practice for inquiring into those relationship patterns and then deciding, is this serving me? So I like to say authentic relating is not about healing. Therapy is great for healing. Many other modalities is good for healing. Authentic relating is really about putting new options on the menu so that we can have the freedom and aliveness that we want in a relationship. So in the briefest possible way, authentic relating is the path of waking up in relationship.
Wow.
It is relationship as a path of growth. And so when those tiny moments come up between us of tension or challenge, we have a chance to rewrite our relationship patterns to more healthy versions. Yeah.
So guys, this is Jason's book, just to give you an idea, and it's been well read and studied, and I use it a lot, and it's really an incredible book. I'll put all the links for you guys to watch. And I was for a month in France in lockdown with my parents, and this book saved my life because, the best moment to get triggered is when you're with your parents, right? That's where it all started. And really having some kind of a framework and tools to actually figure out, hey, I'm getting triggered right now. And instead of wanting to run away from that because I feel not safe anymore, I got to actually be excited. Says, hey, I've got access to new information about myself. What's underneath that? How can I just be questioning all that? And really, most of us know that, the whole idea that when you were a kid, you had to compromise on your identity in order to please your parents. So all we do in life is try to please everybody to be accepted, because that's the key of our survival, is to fit in some kind of structure, whether it's a couple or a company, and we compromise on who we are. And but what I love about your approach and what you give that is not just, okay, this concept that we know, but you tell us the how. How do we go back into the connection when we are disconnected, when we feel and that's what I love about it, because it's pretty straightforward, simple structures. And that's what I love about it, because often our mind is not able to operate anymore. We are triggered, we want to run away, and going back to some kind of method is really what it's all about.
Yeah, I spent about 5 or 6 years teaching this work in courses and workshops all over the world. And then I spent a year getting it into the most accessible, practical language possible. And that's what I put in the book. One of the tools is called, Can We Slow Down? And one of the tools is called Let Me Check, which is an internal, like, before you answer someone, to check in with yourself, and specifically how to do with that. And I think it's really helpful to have it in that language, precisely for the reason that you're talking about. If I'm not triggered and I'm at my full capacity, and like I can bring my intelligence and my creativity, and I can take the other person's perspective, and I can be empathetic with another person's perspective, but although that goes out the window when I'm triggered. So and I literally become less intelligent. I become less skillful in my communication. I become, less connected to my long-term values of, like, oh, hey, this person's really important to my career. Some of that goes offline when we're triggered. And so authentic relating is a direct process of how to become untriggered and bring all of those resources back online.
So it's really fantastic for every situation. I have a business background, and before going on that breathwork journey, I was a businessman. And in my past life, the beginning of my career, I was dealing with unions, and I had some coaching on how do you deal with unions when they come. They are very angry, and we had something similar where you don't ask for something big because they're not listening to you anyway. They're just angry. You're the boss, and there's no way to communicate. But you would say, hey, we didn't have, can we slow down? But hey, can we move to this place? Can we change the context? Can we sit down? So it's kind of that idea of, okay, now the person is triggered and attacking. So there's no way I can, meet that person at that level. It's not going to work. Can I change perspective? And the idea of slowing down, which is the first example you took, is no one will argue against that. Can we slow down? That's something seems reasonable enough. It's hard to not say. So you all of a sudden we are getting with someone who's really there, and you kind of find a little way to, okay, now we're coming closer together. And I really love that. Give us some more. I want this to be really practical for people. So let's go through some of your favorite exercises or things that you would offer, for instance, in conflict.
Yeah. There's 30 tools in the book, and there's also 12 what we call games or exercises for practicing all the different skills. And it's kind of like the Karate Kid. That scene in the Karate Kid where it's like wax on, wax off, paint the fence, sand the deck, all that stuff, right? we practice these skills in our relationships, with our friendships. We practice them to create rich social lives for ourselves. We practice them at work to be able to create more mutual understanding with our colleagues, so that when we do have conflict or tension, we have the skills well practiced. And that's what the thesis of the book is, which is we can transform conflict into pure potential energy, or clarity, connection, and teamwork between us, right? And so one of the biggest tools in authentic relating, like I said, there's 30 kind of smaller tools in the book, but the biggest one is called setting context. And we call this the Swiss Army knife of authentic relating, because it's applicable in so many different places. Setting context is essentially creating the platform or the frame in which something's going to happen. Like, and setting context is really social leadership. It's the ability to say, hey, I want to have this type of connection with you. I notice we've been getting into a rut in this particular pattern in our relationship, but I want to have this. So it's literally the art of creating culture. Like, if you imagine every single one-on-one relationship you have, there's a culture. There's a culture in that particular friendship. And the culture is the accumulation of all of the different experiences you've had with that person, all the different thoughts you've had about that person, most of which are untrue, most of which are just a story in your head about who they are. And the more you can have a real connection, an authentic connection, and meet each other person to person, being to being, soul to soul, right? The more that becomes like a true bond,
I love that, and it's this is really similar to all the practices that we do. Whether it's breath work, ice baths. The whole idea is to train yourself in a safe environment, so that when you are in an unsafe environment, you have developed some automatism. So it's something that comes naturally, and that's really, when you say the Aikido, that's really that. It's okay now because I've practiced it, and you can do it as a game. Now all of a sudden I can go deep. There is one game and one question that I love particularly is, what I think you think about me is your assumption about, because as you said just right before, we are constantly projecting how we are perceived in the world, but we don't know. So having this, instead of having these stories that are, and we know now that everything we believe is a story. The French think this way, the Americans this way, the Democrats that way, the Republicans this way. And we can see there are stories. The truth is absolutely not there. It's just one perspective. So having this allows to really create connection. Even if there is conflict, we can actually realize, oh my God, I had no idea.
Yeah. America, especially, I've been watching the politics. I basically turned politics off for like 5 years as I was building my last company and writing the book and everything. And right after the election, I started reading news articles for about 15 or 20 minutes a day. And I was doing that for the last 3 months. And I was so interested in what was happening in our culture. And polarization seems to be almost like tearing the fabric of our, we have this idea of United States or the union. There's no union. It's pretty much torn in half in a lot of ways.
The Facebook of America.
Yeah, right. And what that comes down to is demonizing the other side. And it's true. The other side has a shadow. That shadow is dark. Like, just like my shadow is dark, just like your shadow is dark. I think it was one of the St. Augustine or someone like that said, the line between good and evil goes directly through each human heart, right? So the other side has a shadow. If you spend all your energy pointing that out, that's just going to create division.
Yeah.
The point is to look at our own shadow and to make sure it's not harming other people, or harming other people as little as possible, and really learn to take the other perspective. And, you know, we just need to have the ability to disagree and still be friends and still be citizens together. And I think authentic relating does a lot to give us these skills of perspective taking, of being able to take the other side, or respectfully disagree with someone without tearing their identity down, because we're all going to get defensive about our identity if it's attacked, right?
You have a great quote in your book, says people become interesting as soon as you become interested. And it's really that idea of, okay, instead of, you know, projecting on the other person, okay, what can I do? What is in my power? And,
Yes.
you know, as we talked about, and you do that in your book really beautifully. You contrast your brain. You contrast your thoughts. We know, we see that, you know, again, I mentioned Facebook because that's it. Facebook is in charge of your brain. They just put so much stuff in your feed that makes you, that's your reality. So of course, you know, whatever you read, whatever you watch, it's just one version of the world. So the only way for me is to go back to the body sensation. It's going back to the present moment and what is true in the body, not in the mind. I can't trust the mind. It's, you know, my story, my family, my friends, my reading. Okay, so that's just a framework that I cannot apply, I cannot use to read the world. But going back to how I feel, how you make me feel, that's not something that comes from the mind. This is something that, wow, okay, what's happening in the body right now? And that can be negative, that can be positive. It's just acknowledging that. And when people manage to operate this way, and that's why we have to stop watching the news and being on these things, because it's just, we are addicted to fear, so it just doesn't work. So having that idea of cultivating presence as a first step to connection is for me, is the link between what we both do. You know, it's like what I feel I do is kind of a prerequisite. You need to find ways, meditation or one of those practices. And once you're in that space, okay, now I'm open. Now I'm ready. I'm not in the trigger. I'm not angry. I'm not upset, because in that state, you want to survive. You're in sympathetic mode. There is no space for connection. You're just trying to survive. So that's, for me, is the powerful link between what you do with authentic relating and all your incredible work and breath work. And do you use breath work at all? I wonder.
Oh yeah, the original training that my teachers, the first place I encountered authentic relating and circling was 8 years ago in a training called aletheia. And aletheia is a Greek word that means truth, right? It's it actually means unforgetting who you really are. Like, yeah, anyway. So in aletheia, we used to put people into holotropic breathwork on Friday night, and then we would circle all weekend. We would do it in authentic relating, what we call go relational. So when we come out of you know, the informational, when we come out of the past and the future, and we come right here, right now, we become more embodied, right? That's what you were talking about with presence. And if we come right here, right now, and we get into relationship with each other, and we start to feel each other more deeply as we're talking, as we're sharing more of ourselves, there becomes a little bit more safety. There becomes a lot more space for curiosity. We start to appreciate each other more, and then the magic starts to happen. So we would do these circles where we put attention on one person for 75 minutes straight, and we would get curious about that. And that's how we used to do it. We used to do breath work to open people up, and then we would circle all weekend.
It's super interesting. So what was something that came up for me just now is, you know, I remembered when maybe a few years back, maybe 7-8 years back, I was walking with my daughter, and we passed someone who only had one leg. And my kid stopped the person, says, "Why do you only have one leg?" And I was mortified at the time. I says, "Oh my God, you know, this is just such an appropriate question." And the person was really happy to engage and answer that question. And I actually felt, oh, that's refreshing, you know, because it's that the elephant in the room, and the person is usually happy and has no issue about it. But we have all these stories in our heads of what's right and wrong, what's appropriate in the context of a society. And I guess these practices allow us to come back to our our joyful innocence, where all of a sudden, you know what, this is really the question I have. Why on earth do you have so many tattoos? I don't get it. And then I can ask this question without being inappropriate, because this is what's alive in me,
Yeah.
whatever it is usually my story and my problem, and the person will definitely not being triggered, because they usually own whatever is happening, or if not, then it's a trigger which allows them to explore it as well. So that
Yeah.
idea of being curious with people, and it's something that we rarely do, of course not in a social context, but even with our close ones, not even talking about conflict. When do you actually pause and explore deeper what's going on with the other person, with your partner, with your kids?
Yeah. Yeah. Curiosity is really the antidote to the polarization that we were talking about before. And I think we need a deeper understanding of what curiosity is, because it's a capacity, it's a muscle. If you're not using it, you will lose it, right? If you don't generate curiosity about people on the other side of the political aisle, you lose it, and then you demonize them. That is inevitable. And so authentic relating has a whole series of sentence stems and exercises that develop our curiosity. It's something we set aside time for to deliberately practice so that we can strengthen that muscle and build more capacity. And it's also our ability to appreciate beauty, right? And if we really understand what it is, we can't be curious and in judgment at the same time. We can't be curious and in get shit done mode at the same time. Like if you're doing logistics with your partner and you're trying to get stuff done and you're trying to figure out the logistics for the kids and organizing your life, and you're not going to be curious about who they are and what's the deeper currents that are happening in them. And if you're only doing that, and over time, guess what? The relationship becomes less rich and grows apart, and misunderstanding starts to happen. So deliberately practicing curiosity in our lives is one of the most important things. It's really the center of authentic relating, I think, is presence, appreciation, and curiosity, is those three things. So that's why there's a full chapter in the book on each of them.
Yeah, I highly recommend to everyone. That's been really a life-changing book, and it's really a roadmap for me. So it's something that I use in every aspect of my life, whether it's when I hold space for people, or in my personal journey, whether it's with my kids, with everyone. Something that came up is, for me, the only one who really the professionals that use authentic relating in a biased way from the start are salespeople. They do it, if I want to sell you something, I need to understand who you are, what is your pain point, and then I'm going to address it and then emotionally connect with you so I can sell you my crap. And it's kind of applying those sales methods, but with integrity, without an agenda, without trying to get into an outcome and a manipulative approach. But it is something that people appreciate in salespeople. This is, oh, finally someone is listening to me, someone is interested in me. And it's sad that it's often only in that context. And it can be, it can sell you that I want you to vote for that person. So, sales happening in love. I want to seduce you. Or, there is a lot of sales that is happening in many contexts. Well, basically, I have an expected outcome. But if you are able to drop that and just do it with the sake of, hey, if I listen, if I'm curious, because we are one. And I think that's, for me, was the biggest reason to do all this, is the more I get curious about people, the more I listen, the more I inquire, the more I get reflection on my own life, the more I get insights. Says, oh yeah, you know what? I think I'm like that too. And I didn't really realize that, or this is, oh, that's interesting. This is maybe what I did that. So the more you're going to do that, for me, that's how it happened, the more I'll get to come closer to my own truth. Is that something that you came across as well?
Yeah, absolutely. There's this interesting teaching around strategy, because what you're talking about, if I'm genuinely trying to get to understand someone's problem and understand someone's situation so that I can sell them something, I'm still not in authentic relating. Like
Of course.
in a sales conversation, the agenda is explicit. You know that I'm trying to get you to vote for someone, or I'm trying to get you to take my program. But if you feel that I'm genuine and you feel that that has value, so I would call that like authentic marketing or authentic sales. Authentic relating is different. Actually, the core of it is we set aside our agendas completely. Not that we can't pick them back up later on, but when we're in the practice itself, we practice radical curiosity, and we do not try to fix, change, or advise the other person. We do not, and if we have an agenda coming up, we actually reveal it instead of trying to manipulate and make something happen with the other person. And that's when all of the guards can really come down. We can take off all of our armor, and we can really start to relate being to being.
100%. You know, when I do a workshop, I did some free workshops and almost my first sentence says, hey guys, my intention is for some of you to join my 6 weeks training. So it's like kind of really straightforward. And exactly what you said, the fact that I said that, everybody relaxed. They knew, okay, this is what the guy has in mind. And often what we see is it's all amazing, da, 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 da. And at the end, actually, buy this, you know, buy my ebook, da, da, da. And you feel, okay, now you're disappointed. You cheated me because I had trust in me. I was crying with you. I loved your story, whatever. Da, da. And now I see, oh my God, it was not authentic. But guess what? We are animals. We know that, we sense that, we have the instinct for it. So you think you're fooling people, but you're not. People read through it. They're just used to it. So say, okay, all right, I hear you. It's done over and over. But when you drop the story, when you are being authentic, people feel it and appreciate it. And I have because of what you do, let's go controversial.
Okay.
I believe that the success of Donald Trump, I mean, it's no longer a success, but kind of an incredible success, is based on his ability to be just what the fuck was going on in his head. He was just say it and be completely transparent and not trying to have filters. And okay, sure, but he was almost clear about his agenda. It's like, it feels like, at least at a superficial level, he was just too real, and people love that. Oh my God, someone is real here, you know. And no matter how stupid 90% of what he was saying was, it's just, oh my God, this is actually someone who is saying something real without, you know, reading a prompter or something. And, and we relate to that. Oh my God. And that's, I believe that's one of the key of this success is people wanted that reflection. Says, oh, I wish I could speak my truth, whatever that truth is. And what's your take on that?
Absolutely. I think authenticity has so much aliveness in it, right? The truth just feels good. If someone's telling the truth, and they're telling the truth is not quite the right phrase. If they're being authentic, if they're really expressing themselves, it feels good to witness. It's like, oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could be that unfiltered. I wish I could. And yeah, I mean, other parts of his philosophy, whether or not he was telling the truth when he was being authentic, is another matter entirely. But you know, we're all telling a story. We're all, you know, we're all sharing ourselves. So I think we can learn from his success. The fact that he became president of the United States is really remarkable in so many ways, because he had so many people who disliked him.
And close to be reelected with the heaviness of what he did and said, you know. That's almost, you know, it's like George Bush too, you know. How could that happen, you know?
I don't know.
They do it again.
It's really, well, that's the thing. I think a lot of people distrusted and didn't like Donald Trump and voted for him anyway. Because of the power of the narrative that he was telling.
Yeah.
Right.
When you're alone and get to do what you want. You know, something that is interesting, whenever I'm meeting people that are authentic, you know how they usually start? They start by apologizing. They start by saying, okay, I'm sorry, that's going to come out, but I need to get it out. And they need to get it out, but they realize in their head it's not appropriate. It's not going to be conforming to the rules of the container that is a society, that is a, whatever it is that the container is, like, I mean, the organization, whether it's in the training or, and they apologize for being authentic. And I don't know, have you encountered that quite often?
Well, I think there's a way that we apologize for telling our truth. So it's like, oh, I don't want to, I'm sorry to inconvenience you, but I have to share what's in here. Like, is it okay if I actually say what I'm feeling? Like, people hedge a lot. That's what it's called. It's like they're hedging their bets. They think that they're not going to be received unless they're apologetic, because like, and they're apologizing for being a little bit assertive with their needs or emotions, and it's entirely unnecessary. It's um, training ourselves out of this is a big first step into leading an authentic life.
Yeah, and every time someone does that, every time the impact is huge. People, the thing is, people don't have to be like you. They don't have to agree with you. They just appreciate that you are being you. And when you are being you, you allow me to be me. And that's the beauty. And of course, this is not how the matrix works. Matrix wants us to fit into some kind, we need this number of lawyers, of doctors. If we start, being awakened, that's going to be a huge mess. And so I completely understand if, as a politician, as a leader, this can't happen. This is not, it doesn't work as a society level. And that's the fundamental problem we have, is like, if everyone starts expressing and being their truth, then the whole political system needs to be disrupted, and we need to work out something else. And that's
who's going to work. Yeah. Who's going to work in the factories and make our iPhones, If you actually have a society where everyone was authentically expressing themselves and authentically going towards what they thought was their purpose in the world, our current society wouldn't work. So there is some kind of transition happening in humanity. But if you are on that path of wanting to live an authentic life, and perhaps even have, a career, or have your ability to support yourself tied to something that you really care about, your authenticity is an important factor. So in authentic relating, one of the main teachings is what I call the polarity of humility and dignity. And a polarity is two positive values that it's the more. If you think of Gandhi or Martin Luther King or Thich Nhat Hanh, like, are they dignified or are they humble? Like, the question almost doesn't make sense. It's like they were so much of both, right? And what most people do is they posture and they collapse. And so this is the negative, or the shadow polarity. And authentic relating as a methodology is very simple. It's very straightforward. We have all of these exercises that allow you to feel your own patterns of posture and collapse. And when you feel your own patterns of posture and collapse and bring awareness to them, you realize how painful they are and how much they've been affecting your life. And then you have the option of putting new options, you have new options on the menu. You have the chance of bringing patterns of humility and dignity instead. And so when people are apologizing for who they are, right, or apologizing for telling their truth, or apologizing for having needs, or apologizing before they make a request of someone else, it's because they're in collapse. So the solution to that is actually learning to bring awareness to the patterns of collapse and to develop dignity. Yeah, which is, my voice matters, like my presence matters.
Yeah, I think it also comes from a space of not wanting to hurt the other people. If you take in the context of a romantic relationship, and you are actually not in love anymore, you want to get out of the connection, but you want to do it in a way that is going to minimize the impact on the other person. So you're not going to be authentic in order to make the person not feel too bad about themselves, that they're being rejected, and so how do you navigate this connection and this, authentic separation?
Well, that's definitely a complicated situation. A lot of times people need a narrative or a story to be able to break up, because, The metaphor that I use, sometimes visual metaphors really help me understand things. There's something called a binary star system in astronomy. Do you know what this is? Like our solar system is not a binary star system. It has one, we have one sun, right? And the sun is so much bigger than all the other planets that has so much more gravitational pull, and everything revolves around the sun, right? Well, in a binary star system, there's two stars that are revolving around each other. And the gravity that they have with each other is so strong. And so in a love relationship, if there's been a lot of connection or a lot of time, even just being in love itself, it creates a lot of bonding. And so we need a story to kind of get out of each other's orbit. That's generally why we make the other person wrong, and why we like have to like temporarily hate the person that we loved to get out of their orbit. But how do you do that in a conscious way? How do you do that with the least harm possible? I think you tell the truth. And, you know, the ability to be vulnerable with the other person about what your fears are, and what your challenges are with them, and what your challenges are with, you know, staying together or commitment, and why you can't do that. And like, it's really, I think a conscious breakup really involves showing up for the emotional fallout that happens, you know, whether that's having a couple of conversations for a shorter relationship, or maybe it's, you know, trying to maintain a little bit of a friendship, or some type of a relationship. Obviously, if there's kids involved, you need to have developed some kind of good relationship, even if there's not a friendship there. You need to develop a good co-parenting relationship. So I think, I don't know if that answers your question. It's quite complicated.
No, and a few things came up for me. One is, one man said, you cannot be in a relationship until you fix your previous relationship. So it's really that idea. And being divorced myself, I really definitely can relate to that. The other thing is, we are humans. We fuck up. We don't behave in the way we wish our dogs would see us. You know, I wish I was the man my dog thinks that I am. But for me, it's just developing awareness and just saying, okay, I fucked up again, or I didn't do that right. And just sitting with that, and maybe journaling or meditating or whatever it is that you do to just, okay, why am I again behaving this way? And at the end, being kind with yourself, says, okay, I don't have to be doing everything right. I don't have to say the right things. And come to the place where you have understood to some extent what's going on, and come to a place where you can forgive yourself, because often people can, you know, be really hard on themselves, more hard on themselves than they can be on other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, forgiving ourselves for not being skillful or hurting others is more important, because if we need them to forgive us for hurting them, then that's just more entanglement. It's usually not very helpful.
So Jason, are there other things you'd like to share with us? I'd like to give you the space.
Yeah, well, I just appreciate jamming on all this content with you. I love your energy. I just have so much appreciation for what you're doing in the world, and
Thank you, brother.
And I'm looking forward to being part of your program coming up soon, and as a guest teacher. And yeah, there's lots of resources for authentic relating out there in the world. There's lots of different courses. Most of my work these days is dedicated to training facilitators. So anyone can reach out to me for any reason. And yeah, please. The book is really a how-to manual for conscious relationship. That's another way to say it. It's, you know, I have my own personal story in the preface and the conclusion of the book. And all of the book was really written to be very, very digestible and very, very bite-sized. So you can pick it up and read it for 5 minutes and get a lot out of it. And there's, you know, all these resources and games in the back, and you can use the games with your immediate family. you know, when you're visiting, and to get to know each other more, even if you've known each other for 20 years already. There's a lot of authentic relating is a movement, like I said. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, again, I can't stress how important this work is. Again, for me, it's 50% of, and I'm not an expert on it, but I consider it half of what we do in the training. Uh, and really, you know, half is okay, getting you to be with yourself, to be reconnected with yourself, to identify some patterns and some triggers, and being able to emotionally kind of work through them. But then is really say, okay, can I upgrade my level of communication with others? And what we do a lot of circling, and that's something that I really love, holding space in circles and holding space for each other. But yeah, I can't stress how important and vital. So I'm very, very grateful for what you're bringing to the world and the contribution that you're having, and the way you step up. And yeah, I can't wait for the borders to open again, so you can bring your ass to this side of the world again. And I'll put all the links to buy the book, to connect with you in any form. So that's amazing, Jason.
Yeah.
What's happening these days for you? Anything you would like to share?
Oh yeah, I'm working on some top secret projects, and you know, writing the next book slowly, and yeah, I really want to take this work into companies. You know, I think in the business world, the book is so translated. You know, all of the personal growth jargon, for the most part, is left behind, and it's really presented in a very straightforward way. You know, someone could buy the book and give it to their boss, and, you know, say, we could do this on our team. This is a way to build our culture. And so I'm developing a program to bring it into companies right now.
Fantastic. Yeah, we talked about sales, about negotiation, you know, really practical situation in a company where this is such a game changer. Again, we know that, we feel it. But the boss is not authentic. We just know it's manipulation, management bullshit. It's just, okay, I'm going to be playing the nice little employee. You're the boss, and we're going to be a friendly team. We just feel when it's fake. You know, that's what you buy my happiness with giving me donuts, and we don't. You know, that's Google time and Facebook time when you have a baby foot, and all this is gone now. We want we don't want that anymore. We're not going to be bought with some video games rooms and stuff. No, this is really what's nourishing people at a deeper level, nourishing their soul. That's what we really want. And when an organization, and if an organization can provide that, wow, it's much more than anything tangible and physical that you can provide to people. So I highly, I can't wait to see how you're going to do that. That's amazing. So well done.
Thank you. Yeah, really appreciate you, Alex. This is a fun conversation, and let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, with pleasure. And for you guys listening, I lead breathwork and other amazing practices, and like authentic relating teacher trainings. So breathingcoldbali.com to see all the information about all this. It's really fun. My theme for 2021 is finding the fun in any situation.
Yes. So. I love that. 2020, wonderful.
2020, wonderful. Yay. All right, guys. Have a beautiful day. Have a beautiful evening. That's it for